Hello, Dr. Carroll. This is Dylan Hamill. For my final Content Corner update, I decided to send you a video recording of three different uh, literacy strategies that myself and my department head at Southwest Edgecombe High School, Ms. Elena Ritter, uh, have spoken about and used with our classes. Um, I have to say, of all of the courses I have taken through the Lenore Rhine Masters in Teaching program, this course in literacy has been the most useful in terms of day to day time spent in the classroom. And there are things that I have learned in our literacy course that I've read about one week and then tried the next week, especially with some of my more flexible classes. But this has also been a course where the strategies that I've read about and that I've used, um, they are so easily shared with my fellow teachers in my department. So there are times where I'll share a graphic organizer or an idea, and we'll play a little bit of verbal tennis with it and try to implement it for the um, greatest use for our specific students. When speaking with Ms. Ritter for this Content Corner update, um, she and I spoke of strategies that could be used for the during portion of reading a primary source document for social studies and with the writing portion. We tended to, in our discussions, focus on the baseline of the struggling reader and the lower proficiency student, um, to keep them in terms of our primary focus, and we found it best to scaffold instruction using graphic organizers. Graphic organizers that she and I created ourselves, or that we had picked up from this course or other resources. Now, even though these organizers are designed for the lower proficiency reader in mind, they can be extended for the higher proficiency reader or the gifted learner, as needed. So in this video, I want to show you three organizers that we had spoken about, Ms. Ritter and I, during our discussions. Again, for the during reading process and the post reading when it comes to writing. For the during reading, from the very outset, Ms. Ritter and I decided and discussed that for the presentation of primary source documents to our students, that it is probably the thing they despise the most about our social studies courses at Southwest Edgecombe. These primary source documents can tend to be long, written in arcane vernacular. They tend to be pretty boring. And in the final exam from the state for all social studies courses are heavy with the primary source documents. So whether the kids like it or not, we have to use them in our courses. So to practice with our students and to help build their endurance for primary sources, she and I have been discussing and using this style primary source graphic organizer. And we found it to be quite effective. Ms. Ritter has rightly told me that the length of the primary source when presenting it to your students, particularly in terms of skills practice, can be a big hurdle for student engagement. If they see a multi-page journal entry from a colonist in New Spain, that length will often limit engagement. So for this graphic organizer, the brevity is the focal point. So in it, we have a clearly defined textual box. Again, the source is in italics to visually denote to the students that this is the document. Everything else is in normal font or bold. Again, sort of to like visually demarcate what is the document and what is analysis, skills practice, or even context. This organizer is adapted from the Gilder-Lehrman folks, and we have found to be very effective. So again, a brief context. This document is from my world history course about the Black Death. For all of my students, a brief little context to establish some readiness. I mean, there are times in my courses where I've used a document like this towards the end of a lesson, or even a sort of a summative. Again, like now, students, we have discussed the Black Death. Now let's see it in action in this primary source document. Or, I mean, there have been times where to introduce a topic like the Black Death, I mean, let's dive, feet first into this document. Let's read about the symptoms and its effect on the medieval family, and let's sort of work backwards. So for this document, again, we see brevity, we see a light bit of context. For the during reading, we have this brief sort of context clues vocabulary chart. One of the biggest struggles that Ms. Ritter expressed to me in terms of the performance of our students in testing and in day-to-day for the classroom is vocabulary awareness and the ability to deduce the meaning of academic vocabulary and content-specific vocabulary within a document. So we teach this through our primary sources in a very English education style model. We really harp on context clues. Now, this organizer is used for my standard classes. So I, as the instructor, have picked words that I believe that they will not know. So I pick these words and sort of cause them to focus in on these content and academic vocabulary words that I'd feel like they just, not just that they should know, but words that will help unlock a deeper understanding of the document. Now, for my gifted or high flying learners, maybe I would leave the unknown words box blank. Again, test their knowledge. What words in this source do they not know? Have them challenge themselves. Ms. Ritter has been teaching at Southwest Edgecombe for almost 8 years now, and when she first started teaching writing, what a short answer portion was part of the North Carolina final exam for social studies. However, even though that now that requirement is no longer on the NC final exam, she expressed to me that to assess the depth of understanding post-reading when it comes to writing, she has found that summarization is the best way that she has found for all of her learners to assess their understanding. Summarization, she teaches it with a focus on brevity, but also key detail. She has found success in the past using sort of a 10 to 12 word limit. This document for the Black Death is 4 paragraphs. So to keep it brief, summarize it briefly. Dr. Carroll, I'm running short on time for this Screencastify recording. It's about 11 seconds left. I will pick up with a second video and continue explaining my conversation with my department head and myself.